and welcome to today's program as the World Affairs Council of Greater Houston hosts a conversation with Charles Foster, Council's global leader of influence. My name is Sandia Bayou. I'm Director of Development at the World Affairs Council of Greater Houston. It's our hope that you and your families are doing well. Now, more than ever, it's important to stay informed about what is happening not only in our city, but around the world. The World Affairs Council of Greater Houston brings foreign affairs experts right into your home. Charles, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
And it's absolute my pleasure and honor to host you. Thank you for your ongoing support of our council and me personally. And I think we've really known each other for almost 20 years. That's really something unbelievable.
True.
Wanted to check in and see how you are doing, how's your family, and how the team of the Foster LLP is currently doing.
We're all doing fine. My wife gets upset with me because I still come to the office, as you can see, but most of our employees are working at home. We have a full floor of about 100 people here, and I'd say 90% are still working remotely.
Oh, that's really good to hear. And again, greatly wonderful that everybody's doing well. Our city have gotten to know you in so many different capabilities and your involvement here in Greater Houston area and beyond. Some of our members, participants, perhaps don't know all of the great accomplishments. So if you would just give me a moment to highlight some of those and recognize you for sure. You served as a senior immigration policy advisor to President George W. Bush in 2000 and 2004 presidential campaigns. Also as immigration policy advisor to Barack Obama in his 2008 campaign. You have testified numerous times before the U.S. Senate and House subcommittees on immigration matters. You're also founding chairman of the Immigration and National Law section of the State Bar of Texas and have previously served as the chairman of the Governor's Task Force on Immigration. And you are the past national president of American Immigration Lawyers Association. Your role in immigration as the immigration lawyer was featured in the 2010 film Mao's Last Dancer. Charles, you're also honorary consul of Kingdom of Thailand and vice dean of the Houston Consular Corps, and also play a leadership role in Interfaith Ministries of Greater Houston, in U.S.-China partnerships, in Asia Society, the Houston Ballet, Barbara Bush Celebration of Reading, and so many other things. Charles, your global vision, interest in foreign affairs was critical in foundation of our council. I think you have a story to share of some ways that your involvement with the council made it move forward.
Yeah, early on when I first came to Houston to practice international law in the precisely April Fool's Day 1969 and then the early 70s, I was determined to do everything in Houston that related to international activities, which was extremely easy to do. There was almost none, frankly, at that time. The World Affairs Council was really at that point sort of, it had been in down there between here and Houston, but it sort of migrated over to St. Thomas University. And so in the early 70s, maybe around 71, 72, in that time frame, I was on the board, and there was I remember distinctly that there was a motion to disband. It was the organization was rather anemic. I can't remember the exact reason, but I've always been a very positive person, and so I said, no, it has a worthy goal, educating the city about international affairs. So let me see if we can find some new leadership. So I can't exactly remember the way this happened, but we wound up recruiting Bill White, who became a future mayor. And Bill was very energetic and very focused on getting a few what I'd call headliners. But then, and I can't remember whether Bill brought in Hal Jones. Hal had been a staple at CBS Channel 11, but Bill ran off. I gave him a going away party because President Clinton was elected in '92. So we're up to '92, and the president, and he went up to be the Deputy Secretary of Energy. So, and Hal had had a stroke or something like that. So we were back, sort of the organization was beginning to crumble. Again, we were sort of tied into University of St. Thomas, and Bill Cunningham, who headed the international program, was there. And so there was again a vote to sort of disband. And throughout, I got to know, in fact, I just got off the phone with Kevin Brady. And Kevin's first campaign, he had a volunteer by the name of Linda Weiss. And Linda was full of energy, didn't know a single thing about foreign affairs. And so I said, let me see if I can't recruit somebody to sort of fill in from Cal. Bill was sort of was up here, not very, bless his heart, I loved him, but he wasn't very practical. Yeah. So Linda brought this tremendous energy, and so almost surreptitiously, because Bill sort of resented it, I got Linda to, little by little, to become a de facto executive director. We went for years, and Alan Crane was, by that time, had gotten involved, and he was my partner in crime. She didn't want to be paid, but in any event, Linda really, more than anyone, I think, turned the World Affairs Council into what it is today, made it into such a significant organization with a large membership, significant speakers platform. So that's the story.
Thank you so much for doing it. Thank you for believing in us, in our mission, having that vision. So that's greatly appreciated. And I was also lucky, as Linda was the one who hired me. This was almost 10 years ago. So we definitely respect her, appreciate it. And I miss having her actually around. As I mentioned earlier, you do so many things. I'm sure you get approached to participate in more things just because what you do with passion. For some of our upcoming global leaders that perhaps are listening and wanting to learn from you, how do you know which way to participate, or who do you participate with? I understand some of the more of your passions as well, but how do you do it that you do it so well and you find time to attend to those obligations and expectations?
Well, as I said, once upon a time it was pretty easy. There wasn't that much activity. Today, Houston is characterized by a plethora of international organizations, of various national chambers of commerce. You have, of course, I think at the very top of it, the World Affairs Council of Houston. Focused on Asia would be the Asia Society that for many years I was also chairman of. You have the Greater Houston Partnership has an international business arm. Well, really, you've already referred to my immigration background. Immigration, thanks to Lyndon Johnson, who changed immigration laws significantly in '65, it went into effect in '68. We've had this huge input of foreign nationals. According to the great Stephen Kleinberg, we've grown since the mid-'80s oil crash almost extensively. Not the African-American population, not the Anglo or white population, but the Asian and Hispanic. So now we have a very vibrant Hispanic chamber, Chinese chamber, Vietnamese chamber, Indo-American chamber. So you have all of these things. So I think people today, you should focus on your interests. Some people are interested in Latin America, some people in Asia and so forth. And there's a British chamber, a German chamber, a French chamber, as you know. You can work with, we're also blessed by having the third largest consular corps. You can get connected with the consul general that represents the countries of your interest, and they keep up with what's going on. So if I had to struggle back in the '70s to find any activities today, one would be really challenged to be involved in all of those. And I think once you determine what your interests are, you can get in. It's very easy to get involved. People over the years wanted to know what my secret was to leadership, how I became a leader in this, that, or the other. And I can truly say I never sought any single leadership post, but I did something that was really, that was almost unheard of, that propelled me into these positions. And that was, I had the strange habit of actually returning my emails. So people would send out an email and I would actually respond. Most people don't. So I discovered over the years if you can stand out simply by not by doing anything great, but just by your participation and being one that speaks up and say I can do this or I'll be willing to do that.
And I'll testify to definitely anytime I have personally reached out in various capacities, you have always responded. So you do it very well, and I salute you for that. And definitely a skill for us to take as we grow, and as a sign of respect, also, right, to the inquiry. I don't think I ever asked you what led you to become an immigration attorney.
Well, I get asked that a lot. So I I often tell this story. At an impressionable age, I was living in a small East Texas town, so small my mother had to teach me both in the fourth and fifth grade because the classes were so small that they combined them. And so for 2 years in a row, she once told me I was the greatest cross she ever had to bear, teaching me 2 years in a row. But she moved us to from this little town where the social highlight of the season was the opening of the snow cone stand in the summer. She moved us down to McAllen, not very far from Reynosa, and we'd go over to Reynosa after church on Sundays, and I thought I had discovered Paris. It had restaurants and bars, and it was so exciting. So I became, as I went through school, I was determined to learn Spanish. I went through school. I became a Latin Americanist. I was interested in Latin America. I spent a year in Chile with the fellowship. So by the time I got to law school, I was torn between being a trial lawyer, the drama of the courtroom, versus international law. And so I ultimately chose international law. I was fortunate. I was able to join one of the largest international firms in the world. It was a Wall Street firm that had the largest Latin American practice. And I discovered there that I really what I was looking for was very different. Turned out that was all corporate law, and I was dealing with assistant corporate secretaries about the various corporate structures of the companies doing business in Latin America.
Yeah.
So, but because I grew up in the Valley, I had this innate thought that immigration was part and parcel of international practice. No one else thought that way. That was my bias by having grown up with the Mexican border. So when I came back here, joined a big firm, international practice, and later I set up my own firm. And by that time, I determined that I could not only have a practice that was essentially all immigration, but that immigration came closest to fulfilling what I was interested in. By definition, every one of my clients was a foreign national, and I was going to be interfacing with someone from Mexico, Latin America, Europe, Asia, Africa, Middle East, or where have you. So that really motivated me. It was working with different people throughout the world. So I found that immigration fulfilled my interests closer than any other law practice.
Well, that's a wonderful story. I don't think I've ever, in the years that we have spent together or been in different opportunities, never heard that. So thank you for sharing that. And you did mention also that you still have your practice. How is any points that you would like to share with our listener about your law firm as such?
Well, our law firm, by coincidence, it's called Foster LLP. I don't know how that happened, but we're one of the largest immigration law firms, not only in Houston, the Houston region, Texas, but the southwestern part of the United States. The immigration law practice is very different from what people think because of the headlines. People often focus on the issue of people being detained at the border or seeking asylum on the border. So we by and large, most of what we do are qualifying people through employment, through investment, through family relations. Thus, we represent large employers. We represent large universities, Rice University, U of H system, Texas A&M system. Even A&M deserves legal representation. That's coming from the point of view of a big Longhorn.
Yeah.
And we represent school districts. We represent the sports teams. One of my best-known clients and friend came to be a great friend is Yao Ming, that I think everyone knew. So that's very different from what people think. We represent foreign investors that often fund a lot of the major development projects around Houston. We do represent detained individuals, but it's very different from what people expect. Today, we have a great challenge. Without being too political, we have an administration that has taken every step that it can, not just to go after or restrict undocumented, people entering without inspection on our southern border, but to really essentially eliminate what has been the cornerstone of America, our refugee policies for asylum seekers. You mentioned the movie Miles' Last Answer. I represented someone that had been seized by his foreign government, and that was turned into a book and then to a movie. And then also just undermining, not undermining, but banning us. We now, most Americans don't realize it, we have a ban on legal immigration, permanent legal immigration in effect, which no one knows how long it will go. And we expect a further ban on temporary people entering temporary. So this is a very, very difficult, challenging times for those of us both practicing immigration law and, more important, believing that we have been, will be, and we should be, and we have benefited by being a nation of immigrants. That's the title of a book of a seminal work by former President John F. Kennedy.
Yeah, and I'm going to chime into this as the way things happen in the world, as the timing of that when you and I are speaking, which is today on Monday. This past weekend actually marked my almost 30 years of arrival into the United States. And I have to say that you personally and your law firm actually were key in making this a success. So I'm very much an example of your work and making those opportunities come true. So I really appreciate all the work that you and that was put forward. So how it has come full circle.
Yeah, I want to thank you for mentioning that. I was going to. But you're an example of how rewarding this is, because we get to represent people who come here and continue to make this we have been and will continue to be a great country, but in significant part because of the fresh blood they bring here, like yourself, contributing so much to this country at the top of the food chain, at the bottom of the food chain, all the way across so many sectors.
Yeah, thank you. And now we'll kind of start wrapping up our conversation. And you know more than others that education is a very, very important mission of our council. Education is what we do. We educate from middle school to high school to universities, and we continue educating. And I always say I learn something every day. And I had asked some of our Student World Affairs Council members, high school students, to send in some questions. So these next questions are kind of on the lighter side. One of them asks, from your personal travels and visits with foreigners here, what are your 2 or 3 simplest guidelines for interacting, getting to know someone from another country?
To me, that's an easy question to answer, because I've been doing that instinctively for decades. And I think the best way, very candidly, is to be informed. Keep up, read the newspaper, read The Economist, read the New York Times, read whatever. Know what's going on in other countries. Whenever I constantly, every day, I'm talking to people all the time from all over the world. And I always, almost always start that conversation trying to make some comment where we have some common ground of knowledge about what's going on in their country. No matter how small, whatever it is, I will almost always find something to say that relates to some historical fact or current event, and people respect that. And then I think to some extent, travel. Part of that comment can simply be that you have visited. You've been to Tanzania, or you've been to Turkey, or where have you.
Sure.
And finally, having some language capability. As I mentioned early on, I was determined to learn Spanish. A significant, not all, but some significant percentage of our practice is in Spanish, is from Latin America. And I always joke that whenever I'm dealing with a Spanish-speaking client, many of which are very well educated, I always joke that I want to practice my poor Spanish on them rather than letting them practice their poor English.
Yeah.
But it shows it's a joke, but it shows that just by speaking some degree of that person's language. That's an element of respect.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you. Very valuable points. Another student wants to know, if you could have dinner with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be, and perhaps why?
Okay, well, I'm tempted to say Jesus, not because I'm a religious person, but almost the reverse of that, just out of curiosity, because the Christian faith has been such a huge part of American life and the world and our history for the last several thousand years. But perhaps more realistically, I've always been a student of the presidency, so I would be I would like to I would pick two people, Abraham Lincoln and Franklin Roosevelt. I could go on. My problem is I would list too many names, but I'll settle with those two.
Thank you. And now in the reality of today of restriction of going places, and also the importance of going places and getting to know people, cultures, and traditions and such. Question about travel. Where is your dream destination for vacation?
Well, I've been fortunate that I've been able to fulfill so many of those dreams. So I have to say, in terms of my remaining list, when I can convince my wife,
Yeah.
would be going to Egypt, going up the Nile, going over to also to visit Israel. I've not been to that part of the world, so
definitely bucket list items for many people that we tend to meet. And the last one was: has there been some adventurous thing you ever did during your travels? Something outrageous, different?
The problem is, I have to preface this by saying I've gone all over the world climbing some of the highest mountains in the world. So by definition, all of that was semi-dangerous, semi-crazy. You've got to be a little suffering from some mental something to engage in that activity and work your way through that. And then you wake up one day and you quit because you realize you no longer have to do that. And it's sort of it's just a matter of time before you're going to kill yourself. So I've done a lot of international travel for the sole purpose of climbing mountains all over the world. Probably in terms of the most interesting was the year I spent in Chile. I was able to attach myself to, at that time, Charles de Gaulle, who had by that time became the president of France, was trying to lead a third way between America and the Soviet bloc, trying to have a middle bloc. He was touring South American countries, and I was able to attach myself to his press corps and spend a better part of the day with de Gaulle and his foreign minister.
Wow, I can't even imagine what that what interaction like that would have done. Fascinating. Charles, want to say thank you again. Thank you for being a supporter of our organization, our mission, our students, Houston, and also many different aspects that this city offers. And you are and will be such a thought leaders in that international space. And again, thank you once more, and we greatly appreciate the honor to call you World Affairs Council's a global leader of influence, and I'm sure everybody will agree that you certainly are one. Have a good afternoon. We look forward to seeing you, and we actually look forward to seeing you at the event. So all the best to you and yours.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.